Welcome to berthing, at least one of them. This is the aft berthing space and would be one of the main spaces unlicensed merchant mariners of the World War II and post-World War II area would have slept. These beds might not look that comfortable, but they're actually not half bad. Welcome to the gunnery officers' bunks. These bunks are located directly underneath the 5-inch and 2 of the 20mm Okeron anti-aircraft guns. The reason is in case of emergency, the commanding officers would be right near the line of action instead of having to run from somewhere else on board. This is the captain's workspace. It's right next to his quarters, and this is where he would go ahead and fill out all the deck logs with all the necessary information. If he didn't feel like handwriting it, he could take it over to his fancy typewriter and type up all the deck logs. This is the captain's bedroom. This is where he would have slept and stayed during an entire voyage, always at the beck and call in case of an emergency. Unfortunately for him, this could be at 2 a.m. or any other time, as most of these vessels were in waters with many hazards. But for the time being, he got the best and largest berth. Welcome to the 5-inch gun. Now, why is the big gun on the rear of this ship? Well, the ship was designed to be fast enough to outrun submarines, so if the submarine was chasing you, you'd be able to engage them with this 5-inch. During the time period, a small merchant vessel like this wasn't considered significant enough for torpedoes, so instead would be trying to sunk with the deck gun of an opposing enemy submarine. Mind you, if it was too much of an opposition, the enemy would still probably submerge and shoot torpedoes depending on how annoyed they were. But for the time being, this was the merchant mariner's best defense against submarines and torpedoes. Attention, enemy aircraft. Let me introduce you to the 20mm Okeron cannon. This was used as the most prolific anti-aircraft gun used by the U.S. Navy. This ship only had 8. Some battleships of this time period had up to 72 of these single-mount guns. This ship used them as its primary anti-aircraft gunfire with occasional help from the 3-inch battery on her bow. These right here are the 20mm rounds for the anti-aircraft guns above. These would be stored in ammo holds and would be delivered up to the deck, run up in large boxes known as ammo boxes. This is the bow gun or 3-inch gun of the U.S. Red Oak Victory. Its primary use was anti-vessel or anti-aircraft. It could also fire star or illumination shells in order to light up an enemy for escorts with larger caliber weapons in order to deal with. This gun would be run by 8 people, 3 just aiming it and the remaining running ammunition to it. Hello and welcome to the main purpose of the Liberty ship, cargo. This is cargo hold 3. The deck, or the cargo space directly under us would be upper 3, and then lower 3. These are the spaces used to store ammunition, as this vessel was an ammo carrier. The booms above would be lifted, raised, and tackled in order for us to move ammunition and other cargo from the dock to the vessel or from this vessel to other docks or other vessels in order to resupply them and prepare them for oncoming missions. Welcome to one of the cargo holds on the Red Oak Victory. Since this was an ammo ship, this room did in fact hold ammo, such as the shell I'm currently carrying. Anchors away. These are the 2 main anchor chains, one that goes to each of the anchors. If we are in a port or a location where you're not going to have a dock necessarily available, you may want an anchor. One of these was able to hold the Red Oak in place without drifting in good weather, but you'd use both in inclement weather. Behind me is the main winch. It is a large moving piece of machinery that does not care whether or not you exist. This would have been one of the many hazards aboard when working with the heavy machinery. Welcome to the bridge of the Red Oak Victory. This is the helmsman's station. From here you would be steering the vessel on any course that you were defined. In front of me is the magnetic compass, and to the left of me is the gyroscopic compass. Using these tools, you would be able to steer in whatever direction the captain or first mate wanted you to. Peekaboo, I see you. This here is a stereoscope for the radar. Gathering the information used by the radar, this would be useful for either finding enemies or range-finding landmarks in order to navigate. How did the Deckies like to tell the engineers what to do? Why, this is their favorite tool. It's the engine order telegraph. Using this device, the Deckies would be able to signal down to the engine room what speed they would like the ship to go. This would allow the engineers to open up the throttles for the main turbine and allow more steam to flow through the turbines. Welcome to the navigation room. Here a deck officer would be doing all of the navigation and use this RDF or radio direction finder in order to locate other ships broadcasting signals. Welcome to Officer's Mess. This mess hall was reserved only for those who carried a merchant mariner license that said that they were a third assistant engineer or a third mate or higher, or if you were an officer of military ranking. Here's the ship's galley. On this diesel stove would be where a majority of the food and meats were made and where a lot of the food would be prepared. This galley was designed to be able to feed the entire ship's crew of 99 ship's personnel. This is your primary form of entertainment on board a Liberty ship, the ship's library. This current library stocked with originals that came from the ship. These books would have been brought in by crew members or officers and then kept here in the library for those who wanted to read. Welcome to the engineering space! From the information provided by the EOT that the Deckies have selected what speed we want, the engineer would use these two throttle valves in order to control the ship's speed. They would also be able to, from this station, monitor all of the vitals of the engine room, allowing them to see the overall picture of engine operation. Welcome to the burner front. Here, burner guns such as this one are inserted into the main boilers. There are two of them, each with 3 burner guns, allowing for full control over how much pressure you build. These boilers were designed for 600 psi. Behind me is the fuel oil heater. This is to heat HFO up to a temperature at which it can be actually atomized inside the boiler. At low temperatures, HFO is about as solid as a brick. Here's the main condenser. It takes the exhaust steam from the low pressure turbine and turns it back into condensate. So that way we can actually pump it via the steam powered pumps. These actually use a smaller turbine in order to pump the feed water back up to pressure of the boiler so it can go into the boiler. This is the reduction gear. It takes the high-speed rotation coming out of the turbines and reduces it so that way it's actually usable by the ship's propeller. Unfortunately, ships' propellers don't do good at a couple thousand RPM, whereas turbines don't spin really well in the 90 RPM range. These right here are the turbo generators. They provide the main power when the ship is underway. They are currently covered at the moment, but are one of the most dangerous pieces of machinery. These put out so much voltage you will literally fry where you stand. In order to deal with this voltage, they have a switchboard, using very old-fashioned switches that often made engineers get the nickname Arky Sparky, as these love to throw sparks. This panel here is for the rest of the auxiliary powers that the generators would power, including the main winches that are used to power cargo operations. You are not at a hardware store. You're in the middle of the ocean. So how do you make what you got with the tools that you have? That's why vessels like this normally carry machinist's tools, such as a lathe and other pieces of machinery like a drill press.